love you. I love you. Hey y'all, I'm Greg. The last time I done this, it was for a whole church service, and before I went, I had to pee 3 times because I was so nervous. I'm alright tonight. I wish I would have went in the middle, so I didn't know when I was going, so I kind of got nervous towards the end, but it's alright. But it started out, I was born February 4th, 1992. I was born into a divided house. My mom and dad were never really together, and they was never married. It's even more confusing. My sister's dad is on my birth certificate. What sense that makes? None, but I went to church on my own growing up. My uncle, he attended church. He did his best to do right, but he wasn't right. I got saved when I was a kid, but it meant nothing. It was just me doing it because I guess everybody else was doing it. I felt like it was a cool thing to do, I suppose. Well, then, fast forward a little bit to when I became a teenager, I had a little more sense about what I was doing. I was still in church. I played basketball for church. Made myself go because my home life wasn't a home life. They partied. They got high. I didn't see all this, but I knew. Now I know what they were doing. They're doing all the things that I ended up growing up to do, and I try to avoid it. I started, like I said, I went in middle school. I started going to church, and then shortly after that, I found high school, which was a complete battlefield. It was any opportunity to be who you wanted, but you had to decide then. And church wasn't what I wanted no more. I seen girls, I seen drugs, and I seen parties, and I wanted all that because that's what I was raised around. That's what I thought was a normal lifestyle. So I started doing all that, and I did all right. I mean, not good, but I did all right. I was self-supported. If I wanted something, I had to hustle to get it, period. We didn't have money. We moved a lot. I was telling Ashley the other day, I want to buy another house because I'm not used to living in the same house for 3 or 4 years. It was unlikely to be there for 6 months, much less 3 or 4 years. So we got to find another place. But seriously, we do want another house. We could grow one. But I was always self-supporting. My mom and them, they did their best. My mom is my world. She always did everything she could to make sure we were taken care of. But she herself had her own battles. And to this day, she still does. After that, after high school, my 11th grade year, I decided I didn't want to even go to school no more. Why? I was going to go to Mount Ed, go to night school, get a job, and be done. I was tired of not having nice things, not being somebody, just it wasn't good no more. It wasn't what I wanted. Well, that all changed. I ended up messing up and meeting the devil, meth, and my life changed forever. I stayed high. I didn't go to school. Like I said, I quit the 11th grade year, so I didn't go to Mount Ed. When that happened, I lost all credits. I just didn't care. Finally, about 2 weeks before school started back, I realized I didn't want to be a high school dropout. I wanted to be the first one in my family to graduate. So I went back to school. My senior year, I had 13 classes. 7 were on internet for one class period. I didn't do it right, but I got it done. I cheated. One of my buddies that was in there, he was a computer whiz. He figured out how we could reprogram it, get the answers, and pass the classes. So we did that, but I got my diploma. I was excited about that. But that wasn't the end of my senior year. About halfway through the school year, I decided I wanted to get high again. And that's what I did. My last probably month and a half of school, I didn't sleep maybe a week. I graduated, and I waited my whole life for this point to be the first one to graduate, and I don't remember it. I just remember being woke up telling me I had to hurry up and get to the school to graduate because I had fell asleep because I'd been up for so long. I got done. First thing I did was the same thing I always did, was went and got high and partied all night long. Cops came. I ain't staying. I went to a different place. It kept on and kept on. About a month after graduation was the first time I got locked up. It was nothing serious. It wasn't nothing drug related, but it was still something I never expected in my life, but it happened. Shortly after that, it kept reoccurring. So whatever I was doing, I was doing it terribly because if you're doing good, you don't get locked up, I suppose. But nonetheless, I moved to South Carolina, got clean again. But each time I did this, it was just I quit using. That was it. I didn't work no program. I didn't stay in contact with God. Who was God? You know. I just did what I thought I had to do to get by. I came back to go to court for that first time getting locked up, and that's whenever I ran into the devil again. And it was on that same path again. That's whenever every 6 months for the first, from 2012 to 2014, I was in jail. I got locked up about every 6 months. I guess it was God helping me to sit down, because if not, I'd probably died, honestly. Brett knows. I'm pretty sure I was one of them times when he said he came back from rehab for a weekend and he didn't go back. He seen me, and we had a bunch of run-ins with each other, and I think God separated us because we wouldn't have survived being around each other. We were, man, we was wild. But the last time I went to jail was January the 4th, 2016. And by this time, I had already gotten clean one other time. Just absence of drugs. No program, no God, no nothing, just quit using. Well, I had gotten put on probation, and I was going to have a kid. So I knew I had to straighten up. Well, that didn't happen. Shortly after everything happened, I went right back to using, because that's what I knew. I went right back to selling, because that's how I had to have income. Had a son on the way. I had to have income, and I didn't want to work, so what do? Well, back to it. January the 4th, 2016, I got locked up. And something was different that time. I don't know what it was, but something was different. I had been tired. My little boy was there. I was content with my aunt raising him, but I got to see him whenever I wanted, so couldn't beat it, at least I thought. Priorities was definitely not in line. Well, when I got locked up, I got sat down. And somebody I know, he's real biblical, and he gave me a bunch of Bible verses in jail, and I never, knowing this guy then, never figured it. But man, he started a good path for me. And I got in the Bible, and I started reading. And it was, like Brett said, to pass time. That's all it was. But it started sticking. You know, I started reading more, and then I started working on myself, started changing in jail. But everybody does. So I was like, maybe it'll stick, maybe it won't, but I got to do it while I'm here. Finally, on February the 4th of that year, I fell asleep in my cell and woke up for a church call. And every time I've ever went and did a Bible study or anything after being awake, just waking up and then going to that, I have never felt such a connection with God. I don't know if it's because your mind's clear, you ain't have no stress of the worries of the day, but something was different that day, and it changed. Everything changed. I cried, and you don't cry in church jail. Period. You don't cry in jail, period, but not in church jail. But I did. I cried like a little baby, and my saying was, I'm 24, but no more. And I ain't got high since. But that wasn't the end of it. I was still incarcerated. I was still in jail, so I was in a secure place, but I had God now. I had gotten out on March 7th, went to rehab. March 7th, 2016, I went to rehab, did 9 months. And when I got down there, it was great. I got to build a relationship with God, got to go to church, and it was wonderful, but I was just doing it because I had to. As soon as I left rehab, I'd go to church when I wanted to, just here and there and yonder, and then fast forward a little bit in life. But God, Bert, you stole it from me. I was going to say it, and I was excited about it, and I heard him say it. I was like, but the thing is, but God is the only reason I'm here today. If it wasn't for him, there's been plenty of times where I've done dumb stuff. Really dumb stuff, and you let me live. Why? And then the other weekend I went, and it ain't a big deal, but to me it shook something. We went to Gethsemane, and Ryan, when he wrecked, man, just standing on the side of the interstate, I started crying, just because God, he was there. That man flipped a motorcycle and basically walked away. He passed out a few times, but he walked away. God, the cop, when he walked up, the lady was like, let's pray for you, and he's like, y'all folks are crazy. We are. We are crazy. That's right. But God. Amen. When we got up there, I told Brett before we left, I said, man, we going on a mission trip. I remember when we used to go on other trips, and it wasn't nowhere as good as this. Jamie would have been after us, but once I got home, I was so excited. I was. I don't know. I don't got where I don't know why, but I cry. I'll be listening to Christian music, going down the road, and just gratitude will climb all over me. I won't be able to say nothing crying, just because I don't deserve anything I have. I didn't have nothing growing up. I don't deserve it now for sure because of the choices I made, but God sees it fit. I don't deserve to live, but God sees it fit. There's something that's going to happen. I'm with you. I ain't have no dreams. God ain't ever talked to me. The only time he ever told me was like, stupid, don't do that. Don't do that again. I'm like, all right, and I've made changes. I've had battles. I've overcome some. I'm still battling with some. But every day I wake up to do better. If you ain't moving forward, you're falling back. And we ain't got no room for that. I'm just grateful. But God, the mercy, the grace, if it wasn't for him, man, I rode by this church plenty of times. I've actually pulled in that driveway beside this church to avoid getting pulled over because I have no license, they have no tag, they have no insurance, and I had a pocket full of dope and didn't need to be here. So it's only grace that my life didn't turn out way worse than it is because I made the mistakes. Had I gotten caught for half of what I've done, I wouldn't be here. But God seen it fit to let me do what I had to do to get to where I am today. But that's my story. That's God's story. It's just me living it for him.
Amen.